Just say it's a wonderful thing.
I think they're ready. We're ready. Clerks will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Royce C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Dr. Willie Weaver from the Worth Baptist Church, Fort Worth. Welcome, sir. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Father, as we come to you in prayer, we thank you for this beautiful day you've given us. Thank you for the privilege of living in a country like we live in, for the freedoms that we still have. And Father, we thank you for the Commissioner's Court, Judge Whitley and the other precinct commissioners. We pray you would give them wisdom, give them your guidance in all of the important decisions they make. And Lord, we know that we want our community to be the very best kind of community, one that we can enjoy and our families can enjoy, and we can achieve what we want to achieve in life. And Father, I pray you would give them wisdom in all of the decisions they make. We know that the beginning of wisdom is to reverence you, and we know that righteousness exalts a nation. And so may you guide in everything that is conducted here today. These things we ask in Christ's name and with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Dr. Weaver, thank you for coming out this morning. It looks like you brought a guest along with you. Would you like to introduce them?
Yes, this is our Minister of Music, Tyler Gillett.
Welcome, sir. Appreciate you coming today. Thank y'all.
I want to thank Dr. Weaver. Not only is Worth Baptist a good Precinct 1 church, but they're adjacent to the Resource Connection, and they've been an excellent neighbor and collaborator in the programs that we do at the Resource Connection, and we're grateful to you and your congregation for all that you do.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have three announcements for the Court this morning. As it relates to the agenda, the first announcement is under Facilities Management, item 8F1. There's revised court communication in your red folder, and that's from Commissioner Johnson. We've updated the electronic file in your court book on that particular item. Also, under Transportation, item M1, this is a scope-related change to the East Rosedale project. Everyone in your red folder, you should have a new PowerPoint as it relates to that, and we'll have a presentation by the City of Fort Worth on that particular item when we get to that item on the agenda. And then, Your Honor, members of the Court, under the briefing section, item 11A, this is the Compensation System and Benefits Survey update. You also have a new PowerPoint that is in your red folders for you all to look at. Those with electronic court books, that information is in your electronic court book also. Then just a few other announcements, members of the Court. We did ask that you bring your calendars with you today to look at potential for the budget hearings. We want to make sure that we have everybody here for those hearings. I would suggest that we might do that at the conclusion of court today. It gives you an opportunity to review those and see which dates would be beneficial for or would work for all of you. I will say that we had anticipated originally having it starting on the 11th. At the staff level, we believe that when we do change those dates, that they should be after the 11th, not prior to that time, because staff will need some time. The reason we're doing that is because this coming Friday, the 25th, we're getting the a new tax roll from TAD, and that'll give us a better revenue projection when we put our budgets together. And then finally, members of the Court, the PEBC It has a meeting tomorrow at 2:30. This is a change from normally it starts at 2, but we have two members of the court that are on there. That meeting starts at 2:30, and it'll be held at COG. And Ms. Glenn is also a member of that board, so Ms. Glenn, that's at 2:30. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of July the 8th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. This time, we don't have any proclamations, but I'd like to recognize first Commissioner Johnson.
Your Honor, I would request that we close today's court meeting in memory of Dr. Wayne Williams. Dr. Williams served on our JPS board meeting for a few months, was my appointment, and finally, his prostate cancer got the best of him after 10 years. He was a super individual, a very good friend of mine, and one of the most upbeat people I believe I've ever met. And so if we could close today's meeting in memory of Dr. Wayne Williams, I would appreciate it.
I unfortunately was not able to attend the service yesterday, but I heard it was a very, very good service, and
Very nice.
a lot of great things were said about him. So we're gonna miss him, and he was very committed to public service and public health and to the people of this county.
For everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, he tried to help everybody. It didn't matter if they had anything or not. He was just that kind of person.
We're gonna miss him. Commissioner Brooks.
I wanted to make everybody aware of a very significant event for Tarrant County. You, of course, know that we did not have a court meeting last Tuesday because we didn't have a quorum. 3 of us were in Kansas City, Missouri for the National Association of Counties annual conference. Well, at that conference, our own Judge Whitley was elected second vice president of the National Association of Counties, which means that in 3 years he will automatically ascend to the presidency of NACO. This is the first time in the history of Tarrant County that we've had one of our number to be elected to serve as the president of the national body that represents counties all across America. It is great for Texas, it's great for Tarrant County, and frankly, NACO couldn't have a better man in charge. So please join me in congratulating Judge Whitley.
Commissioner Brooks also was nominated and approved to be a director of NACO. And I want to congratulate you, Commissioner Brooks.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody, and we had a lot of help and a lot of support from folks in the county as well as the state. Commissioner Johnson is the president of Texas Association of Counties now, and it was a real group effort, and I appreciate the help many of y'all gave in that process. And just for the record, Marvin and Ray, we were never all 3 together at any point in time throughout the conference.
I think you need to be talking to Tony.
Well, I thought he'd probably pick up on that as we were going through the process. But again, it is a big honor, and I'm excited about it, and I'm humbled by the vote of confidence from the folks there. And it's I've over the years I've made a lot of great friends through NACO, and that's what that's a lot of the benefit. But at the same time, it is an opportunity to really exchange ideas and to learn a lot about what other counties are doing. And to give you an example of how it kind of goes back and forth, the week that we left to go to the conference, the earlier part of that week, we had 3 commissioners from Lycoming County, Pennsylvania, down here. They had heard that we had a little thing called the Barnett Shell. They had something very similar to that in their area, and were trying to get up to speed and to understand the processes from, really from how to deal with it in the public, how to deal with it in issues of zoning. Lisa McMillan, who I don't see here today, set up really a 2.5 to 3 day, learning information type tour here that included everything from talking with folks at XTO, talking with folks from the state, talking with folks from the Railroad Commission, from the planning and zoning areas, to really help make their job easier as they begin to experience the same thing that we've experienced. And I think that's just one of the benefits that we derive from NACO, is an opportunity to find out how other counties around this country are dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with here. And it's the information exchange has been very, very beneficial, and I think will continue to be so for many years to come. So again, Commissioner Brooks, thank you very much for those kind words, and we look forward to the relationship with NACO. You have before you the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have this morning a public hearing, and Ms. Ward.
Good morning. So this morning we're requesting a public hearing to consider technical amendments to the FY 2006, 2007, and 2008 Consolidated Action Plans. These amendments reallocate funds from one project to the next project. Included in this is $75,000, $267 to be reallocated to sidewalks in Benbrook. This is the balance of a drainage project that has been completed in Benbrook. The next amendment is we'll move $77,917 to a street reconstruction from a water line replacement project. The bids came in too high because the construction costs, so we were moving it to a different project. If any comments, we'll be glad to hear them.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this particular issue? None appearing, then I will close the public hearing. And is there any action that...
There's no further action at this time.
No further action at this time. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Could we back up to the consent agenda? I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
And that is that in approval of the consent agenda items, we approved 10 grants to organizations that provide services to our homeless population. Those grants totaled $646,744. This county takes seriously its response to people in need.
Thank you very much for pointing that out, Commissioner Brooks. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, on item number 1 under the Administrator section, we're requesting that the Court approve the submission of a grant application for the 2008 Homeland Security Emergency Operations Center Grant Program.
Move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the Court accept a budget adjustment, approve a budget adjustment from the Department of Aging and Disability Services to provide services for the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, members of the Court, the items 3 through 8 deal with the hospital district, and I would like to say that on all of these, we are asking for your concurrence and approval of actions taken by the Hospital District Board. On the first one, we're requesting that the Court approve Amendment Number 1 to the professional service. I'm sorry, and I'm jumped ahead of myself. Let me take a step back, Your Honor. I apologize. On item number 3, we're requesting now that the court approve amendment number 1 to the professional services contract between Tarrant County and MHMR of Tarrant County as it relates to providing services for the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
And just for clarification purposes, this has nothing to do with the hospital district.
No, it does not.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner Brooks, I just got ahead of myself. On
I
item 2,
understand. I just
item
wanted
2,
to
we
clear the record.
Okay, item 2, we picked up the money, and item 3, we gave it to MHMR. Okay. Okay, Your Honor, members of court, as we go to items 4 through 8, these are the items dealing with the hospital district. All of these have been approved by the Board of Managers. On item number 4, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve amendment number 3. This is to renew office lease agreement between the district and Brian Ronell, and its location is at the St. Joe Professional Building.
Move approval.
Second.
Let me ask the DA a question on this. Dr. Brian Ronell is my eye doctor. Do I need to abstain on this one, or does it matter?
He didn't pay you to go see him, did he?
I don't think so. You don't have a.
Does he pay
You don't
you?
have a business interest in his.
Well, I've made quite an investment in it.
He doesn't pay you though, does he?
You've made an investment in his kids' college in future, so,
I don't think that's what we're talking about.
okay.
Just wanted to make sure.
Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 5, we're requesting that the court approve amendment number 1 to an office lease agreement between the district and Tarrant Eye Research, doing business as a Fort Worth Eye Bank. This is also in the St. Joe Professional Building.
Move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 6, this also is a lease agreement. We're requesting that the court approve amendment number 2 to a lease agreement between the hospital district and M. Dwayne McDonald, M.D., for space in the St. Joe's building.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 7, this also is a lease agreement. We're requesting that the court approve amendment number 2 to a office lease agreement between the hospital district and Quest Diagnostic Clinical Laboratories, and this is also in the St. Joe Professional Building.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of the court, on item number 8, we're requesting that the court approve action by the hospital district board. This is a contract and change order with RJM Construction for work associated with Phase 3 of the JPS Center for Cancer Care renovation project.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Manning, let me ask you a question with regards to all of these leases. I know that we have in the past asked that we be allowed to approve construction contracts and things along that lines. I'm assuming that these are just individual leases in the new professional building that they've got
Right.
with the various doctors or other participants that are in that building.
That's correct. The hospital district purchased the 2 professional buildings down at St. Joseph, and and there are tenants in that, and these are simply the renewal of leases of tenants that were in those buildings when they bought the facility.
And I guess the question that I would ask y'all to consider or think about it, do we really want to be approving each one of those leases on an individual basis every time they're renewed, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you.
Enough said.
Thank you, Your
As long
Honor.
as one. Okay.
Good morning. Congratulations, Your Honor. Under item D, under the first item in the DA's office, we have 2 subrogation checks. First in the amount of $2,611.30. The second in the amount of $2,017.33, requesting authorization for the court's approval of the auditor depositing same.
Move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you. It is requested that Commissioners Court approve an architectural engineering contract with Elements of Architecture for design of the Administration Building renovation project.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
It is requested that Commissioners Court approve a contract with Thomas S. Byrne for construction management pre-construction services related to the Administration Building renovation project.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
It is requested that Commissioners Court approve an architectural engineering contract with LBL Architects for the design of the Northwest Subcourthouse project.
Green project, by the way.
Move for approval.
Very good.
And congratulations
Thank you.
on being green.
We have a motion.
My age, it's hard to be green.
I understand.
Mark that down on your BlackBerry.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn,
Move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have 3 additional items for the court this morning. Our second item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits. This is for Constable Precinct 5. The chief deputy, if you all didn't know, is retiring at the end of this month with 400 hours of vacation. The department is requesting a waiver effective August 1st. The fiscal impact is approximately $13,260, excluding fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3, we're asking the court to approve another waiver of benefits, terminal benefits. This is for the sheriff's department. One of the captains in confinement actually is already retired. He retired at the end of June with 400 hours of vacation. The sheriff's department has currently been using existing staff to assume this individual's responsibilities. They're asking for a partial waiver of 248 hours with a fiscal impact of $9,374 to be effective the 26th of this month.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our fourth and final item, we have a request from Precinct 1 for departmental reorg, and of course, as the court recalls, we bring all of these reorgs to you for your consideration. Precinct 1 is requesting this reorg be effective October 1st. What Precinct 1 is requesting is the reclassification of 2 of its Mechanic 2 positions. They're currently pay grade 29s. They're asking for a reclass to a Mechanic 3. The changes which support this request include lead supervision in the absence of the equipment maintenance supervisor. Precinct 1 would like for these Mechanic 3s to assume training responsibilities for the Mechanic 1s and 2s. And then finally, Precinct 1 is asking for advanced technological knowledge, or electronic knowledge, rather, so that these mechanics, of course, can assume those additional duties. So those are the changes that Precinct 1 is proposing be made to this position. And of course, as the court recalls, when you consider these reorganizations, if they move forward from Commissioner's Court, then the next stop, of course, is the Job Evaluation Committee for review by the committee. And it's my understanding that the last meeting of the committee is this afternoon.
Has it been through that committee yet?
No, sir, it has not. That would be the stop after this stop, if you all approve this.
Move approval.
I'll second it, but I'm not interested in doing this for my precinct at this time.
I just got one question, if I could, Roy. I read what you had proposed, or what personnel had brought to me that you had proposed for one position, but I didn't realize until I got my book that it was for two positions, and there's only 4 mechanics, a 1 and a 2, and you're wanting to make both of the other mechanic 2s to 3s?
We operate 3 road crews.
We do too.
And one of these positions will be a field position to repair our equipment on the job site so that we can keep jobs moving rather than having to truck equipment back to the precinct garage in order to get it done. The other position will be the in-house position. Both of these are lead men type positions. I guess the thing that makes it necessary is that our precinct garage supervisor is not a mechanic. She's an administrator. So we need mechanics to serve as lead persons, and that's the justification for this.
Any other questions or discussion? I guess from a standpoint, Commissioner Johnson, I hear you said, I wonder how difficult it's going to be to have this in one precinct and not have it in all the precincts.
I think that is less important now than it was many years ago, because all 4 of our precincts now do different things in different ways. We don't have to have organizations that mirror each other anymore. And that's my response.
I agree with you. And we don't have to have them mirror each other.
Okay, any other?
Not just the mechanics, either.
No.
Any other discussion? I guess the only comment I would make about that statement is that we ask everybody else to mirror one another, that if they're in the same type of a thing. We ask the courts. We ask the clerks to a great degree. We ask, we ask different departments that are similar in that way to try to mirror one another. And so I think that a lot of times if we're going to ask that of other folks, that sometimes we're
but we do have, in each precinct and in your office, we all have different positions that we utilize because those positions best fit our constituents and the way each individual commissioner and judge runs their department. And so I think that's, you having some flexibility. Like I say, I support Commissioner Brooks in what he's going to do, but I'm not interested in doing it in my precinct. I don't think I need it, and people in my precinct don't think they need it, but I guess at some point we think we could, then it's available.
My equipment maintenance supervisor is the one that does that job in my precinct, so I don't need it either.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And we don't know what level those positions are going to be yet.
No. Job Evaluation Committee will determine that and make a recommendation.
Mr. Turner.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I simply need to ask for interim funding for our Juvenile Accountability Block Grant for a period that we believe will not exceed 60 days. We have received word that we will receive this funding. It's been a multi-year funding that we've received. The Juvenile Board approved the interim funding in our board meeting on July the 16th, just last Wednesday. We will use our Title IV funding for this interim funding that will be replaced once we receive the grant money. So we're just seeking your approval for this interim funding.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Brewer. Yeah, don't get ahead of yourself there, Mr. Beecham.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Public Health has 5 items for your approval this morning. The first item is interim financing for Minority AIDS Initiative Part A, Ryan White 4 Part D, Preparedness Lab, Preparedness Base, and Preparedness Community Readiness Initiative, or CRI, grants.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second item, and it's with great excitement that I say, this is approval of the Texas Health and Human Services Commission grant for the Nurse Family Partnership.
Congratulations.
This is something that a group of Tarrant County citizens worked on for several months to craft a response to the infant mortality problem in Tarrant County. I had the pleasure of chairing that committee, but it was a community-wide exercise, and I'm glad we were able to get the funding. It will allow us to put some boots on the ground in terms of working with at-risk pregnant women to help improve their birth outcomes. And I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The third item is approval of a service agreement between Tarrant County Public Health and Televox Software Incorporated.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our fourth item is approval of an agreement with the University of Texas Southwestern to allow a rotation of physician assistant students through Tarrant County Public Health.
Move for approval.
Second with a question. Do we have a similar agreement with University of North Texas Health Science Center?
Yes.
Thank you.
Not for physician assistants, but for other types of students, residents and master's and doctoral students.
Have they never asked about their physician assistance program? Okay.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our final item is approval of a lease agreement between Madison Summit LTD and Tarrant County Public Health.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Now, Mr. Beecham, and as you're coming forward, I would like to announce that for the 11th year in a row, the Purchasing Department has earned the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award and is one of only 8 counties in our state to receive this national award. So you're to be congratulated, you and your department to be congratulated again.
Still from Arkansas.
You give
still
him so much for being from Arkansas that I thought this was the preamble to another Arkansas.
For the 11th
No,
year.
they've done good work. He's at least got some good people down there.
Something else, if I could just take a moment, on the 9th of July, we held our first How to Do Business session with for Tarrant County. Judge Whitley gave her opening remarks. We actually had to turn people away. Had over 250 people at the health department, and it was a fabulous event. We got quite a few new vendors, and the enthusiasm. It will become an annual event. We've already scheduled it for the same time next year, so if you choose to put that on your calendar for July 9 next year, we'd love to have you back to.
And I did have a chance to attend that, and I really want to thank the Purchasing Department and also Commissioner Brooks for the effort on getting that underway and making that happen for the first time. There was a tremendous turnout, and I know that there was a lot of work put in by both of you. I know that that's something that is that you worked very hard on, Commissioner Brooks,
Appreciate it. We had quite a few hub coordinators from the area, but Bexar County and Travis County actually sent their hub coordinators to our event, which we will certainly reciprocate. And it was very well. People they couldn't believe the number of people we had for the first time out. Had some low bid snacks, and it was good venture.
Excellent.
We have 5 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2008-130. This is our annual contract for asphalt crack sealant. Recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, selecting as our primary vendor Deere American and as our secondary vendor Craftco Texas.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is another bid award recommendation for bid number 2008-132. This is for the bid for the purchase of a replacement telephone system for the Human Services Department. Recommendation will be to award to the low bidder being specifications Lantana Communications, the amount of $9,109.52.
Is this putting additional recorders in there for them?
Mr. Brunson?
It very well may be. I had a discussion with Mary Lou Almendarez earlier this week that they are now taking reservations for a place for the people to come in to have an interview whether or not they would receive assistance, because they'd had so many people saying they did not have gas money to make more than one trip. And so they've gone into this telephone methodology, hopeful that this will eliminate a lot of the back and forth trips that people make unnecessarily.
Commissioner, if I can answer your question, the telephone system will have the capability for voicemail. One of the other things that the telephone system will allow is currently when people call into Human Services, they have to go through a central operator, which means that they've got a backlog of time, a lot of busy signals. And with the new telephone system, the way we've got it configured, the case managers will be able to give out their direct numbers, so that as the cases are assigned and people enter into the system, they'll have the ability to call them directly without having to go through that central attendant, which should allow for better service to the new entrants that are coming into the system. To answer your question?
Move approval.
Second?
The one thing that I would just ask, we have a motion and a second. The one thing I would just ask is I hope we never have any kind of a phone system that doesn't allow someone to punch 0 and talk to a live person.
No, sir, that's
I can't even begin to tell you how
Personnel
frustrating it is.
Is the only place that happens. But
Where?
call personnel office and punch 0.
If that's the case, I'd sure like to see us change that, because it's
are
very frustrating to never be able to get to a live body at some point in time during a telephone deal.
We try to make that a requirement for each new system. Speaking specifically to personnel, we are evaluating replacing their system also.
I'm just envious. A whole bunch of us have crappy telephones.
Before we get too much further, any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3 is an item in regards to bid number 2008-105, which is an annual contract for the rental of our bobtail trucks. We are recommending rejection of those bids and asking that we be allowed to rebid the revised specifications.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2008-126. This is an item that was appeared before court a couple of weeks ago. It's an annual contract for the purchase of motor graders. Our recommendation would be to award the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in your court communique. We, since that removal, have added letters of certification. The question was a certification for Tier 3 engine for a secondary vendor, RDO, which is John Deere. They are able to purchase credits. They're certified, but they will really be certified January 1. If we have a need, which we've only purchased one motor grader, all-wheel drive, in 10 years, in the last 10 years, we would purchase that after January 1.
So that we're actually buying Tier 3 and not buying Tier 2 with credit?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item is also a bid award recommendation for RFQ number 2008-122. This is a request for qualifications for right-of-way professional services for the Transportation Department. We would ask that Half Associates, HDR Engineering, Pinnacle Consulting and Management Group, and SRLS Texas be considered as those vendors of choice.
Move for approval.
What are these vendors?
I'll second for discussion purposes, but I agree.
What do
What
they
are they
do?
doing? Are they surveyors? Are they negotiators? What are they?
I think we're all thinking that we've got Ms. Green, and so if we've got Ms. Green, then
I wish you had Miss Green. You have to take second string. But what's happened is we have three persons in our right-of-way section, Miss Green, and two agents. One of those agents is going to be out for an extended medical leave, and right now we've got a pretty heavy workload with 1938, 1187, and Precinct 1, and some other projects. And so what we're doing is hiring these people, and they'll be doing the processing, not the negotiations, but the processing of the paperwork to get these things to the title companies. So it's just for overload. And we anticipate with Kathy being out for maybe 4 months that we're going to need this. So we're putting it in place so they're not scrambling when the crisis does arrive.
Why do we have four? And one of them from
Dallas.
Richardson and one from Oklahoma City? I don't understand.
I'll let Jack answer that question.
Okay.
speaking from one hog to another.
Low bid meeting.
Thank you, my little hog friends.
No bid meeting specifications.
We in the RFQ process, we picked the highest rated, the four highest rated vendors. We will first negotiate with the vendor, the firm reaching the highest, attain the highest score. Be a rotating basis. Our expected expenditures are about $10,000 for the term of this contract. We will negotiate with them, and if necessary, first firm, second firm, third firm, fourth firm.
The Richardson firm is well-known in Tarrant County. The Richardson firm has?
Yes, sir.
So, I don't know who the Oklahoma firm is.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Now, before you hop up here, Mr. Beecham was so quick to jump up and run to the mic after Ms. Brewer. I forgot to ask Ms. Brewer, could you give us a little update on Burgers Lake and just kind of give us how things are progressing and your thoughts on that deal? Because I know that's something that we've all read a lot about. And I know I'm catching you off guard because I didn't tell you I was going to ask you to do this.
Well, since I talked to you just 55 minutes ago, we now have 16 confirmed cases of crypto related to Burgers Lake. We anticipate that number will go up somewhat more. We're still in the process of interviewing. We still have a lot of people calling in with symptoms. The owner continues to be very cooperative. We have our environmental health people out there this morning testing the lake water for the circulation of the chlorine in anticipation of how and what we might recommend to the owner about the lake. We still do not have the final test results back from CDC.
Now, you indicated to me also that that you had talked with a number of folks who had felt like they were not feeling well.
Yes. One of the things that we're hearing over and over again, people calling in saying, yes, I was there, yes, I got sick, is that they went back swimming even when they were still sick, still symptomatic. They had not waited 2 weeks, either back there or back to another swimming place. And so one of the messages we really want to get out to the general public is please, please, if you have a diarrheal illness, nausea and vomiting, please do not go swimming, and please wait 2 weeks before you do go back in. And then we have a number of precautions about changing diapers, taking children to the bathroom frequently when you are well, but just to try to prevent problems from happening in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did any of the court members have any questions?
Just for clarification, the lake is not currently open.
It is not open yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Well, she briefed me earlier, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. I wanted you to have an opportunity to hopefully get this word out a little bit. I figure that the only people who are watching this video are people who can't sleep at night, but occasionally somebody else might stumble on the channel and see it.
Thank you.
Your Honor, as Ms. Lamb comes up on the transportation issue, she will be laying this particular item out, but Fernando Costa, who is the Assistant City Manager of Fort Worth, will also be making a presentation relating to this.
Yes, thank you. I'm here this morning to ask that the Commissioners Court consider a proposed change in scope to a project that was included in our 2006 Transportation Bond Program. The project is the East Rosedale project between 35 and 287. The City of Fort Worth submitted a project of 6 lanes. They're converting from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. It does have TxDOT funding, City of Fort Worth funding, and then it was approved in our bond program, so it has county funding. The city has now asked us to consider a change in scope. They'll build the 6 lanes. That project will let in August of this year with TxDOT. As soon as the project is complete, which is estimated to be early 2011, the city intends to go back in and retrofit the project to a 4-lane facility with parking to make it more pedestrian friendly. This is a change in scope because it was approved for a 6-lane, and their intention in the end is to end up with a 4-lane facility. We do have a letter from the city mayor in support of this project, and there is no change in the funding that the county would be asked to participate in. It does fall somewhat outside the parameters of our program in that there is not additional lanes added. We will in the end end up with 4 lanes just like we have right now. But the city has some pretty good arguments, and they'd like to present this project to you and explain the thought process they went to arrive at this facility being the best for the city. So I'll ask now that Mr. Costas come up and give you his PowerPoint presentation and explain the details of the project.
And I'll reserve my comments until after Mr. Costa's presentation.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your Honor, members of the court, Fernando Costa of the City of Fort Worth. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you this morning about the proposed reconstruction of East Rosedale Street as partially funded by the county's transportation bond program. And thank you for considering our request for a change in the scope of this project so that we might be able to proceed with construction as soon as possible. If I could direct the audience's attention to the screen.
Oops. The other way.
Oops.
Again, we want to provide you with an overview of the proposed improvements for East Rosedale Street, review the budget and schedule for this project, and request your approval of that change in the project scope. You can see the location of this project along East Rosedale Street in southeast Fort Worth, within a short distance of downtown, between I-35 and the Martin Luther King Freeway. This is a part of Fort Worth that is currently experiencing considerable revitalization activity, single-family residential construction in the Terrell Heights neighborhood, considerable investment by the City of Fort Worth in a new Chamblee Branch Library building that opened just a few weeks ago, and soon to come a new public health center in the Evans and Rosedale commercial district. We believe that the reconstruction of East Rosedale Street can complement that redevelopment activity, and that's our purpose. This photograph shows you the current condition of the street. It's 4 lanes, but as you can see, it's definitely not pedestrian friendly. You won't see very many folks walking along the street. It's certainly not conducive to pedestrian activity, and it's not inviting to new development, which is what we're trying to promote. Our desired condition is similar to what you'll find today along West Berry Street in the vicinity of the TCU campus. As you know, the City of Fort Worth has reconstructed that street to make it much more conducive to pedestrian activity with wider sidewalks, landscaping, street furniture, decorative street lighting for pedestrians and vehicles. We still have 4 lanes of through traffic. We still have more than enough capacity for projected vehicular traffic, but we're also able to stimulate pedestrian activity in a way that makes it desirable for developers to undertake mixed-use residential and commercial development along West Berry Street. That's a model for East Rosedale. This is a kind of redevelopment that we're trying to promote in southeast Fort Worth, and we need to design the street in order to facilitate that kind of development. We're proposing a 2-phased project. Phase 1 is funded by the Texas Department of Transportation and conforms to the TxDOT design standards. As you can see on the screen, a typical TxDOT design would consist of 6 traffic lanes and a median, similar to what you'll find today on West Rosedale Street on the other side of I-35. Phase 2, as we propose to undertake it for both West Rosedale and East Rosedale, would consist of what we call context-sensitive design, which is the design that reflects the character of the neighborhood through which the street is going to be running. 4 traffic lanes, a median, on-street parking, bulb-outs at crosswalks to make it easy for pedestrians to cross the street, and extensive landscaping as depicted on the screen for West Berry Street.
Fernando, let me ask you a question back on that.
Yes, sir.
In order for that to happen, I'm assuming that it's TxDOT's road right now.
Yes, sir.
Are y'all going to have to take it over from TxDOT in order to take it from 6 lanes back
yes,
to 4?
Yes, sir. In due course, yes, sir. The city is supporting context-sensitive design, not just on West Berry and not just on Rosedale Street, but throughout our community for several reasons. We want to improve safety. We can do so by reducing speeds. Studies have shown that this kind of design can bring about a considerable reduction in vehicular accidents, and by reducing the risk to pedestrians who are seeking to cross the street or walk along the street. We have been able to document improvements to air quality associated with a reduction in automobile trips. We can reduce trips by promoting mixed-use development, residential and commercial, within walking distance of each other, promoting more pedestrian activity, greater use of public transportation. We want to design the roadway to meet the demands of projected traffic volumes and to provide access for multiple transportation modes. We've learned that 4 traffic lanes will be sufficient to accommodate projected traffic volumes. We know that the wider sidewalks will facilitate more pedestrian circulation, and we're in the formative stages of a study on the feasibility of a modern streetcar system. You may have followed the news just last week. Mayor Moncrief led a delegation from Fort Worth to Dallas to inspect the DART system and learn more about their plans for a modern streetcar system. East Rosedale is contemplated as a potential route for a modern streetcar line if it proves to be economically feasible for Fort Worth. We want to promote redevelopment, as we've described, and we want to increase property values, which, of course, serves to expand our tax base. As an example, for West Rosedale on the other side of the freeway, we've already completed Phase 1, which is the TxDOT design. 3 lanes of traffic on each side of the median with relatively narrow sidewalks. Phase 1 is depicted on this image. This is looking west, just west of Hemphill. Tarrant County Public Health is just behind the camera, and I'm sure you're familiar with this cross-section. Phase 2, as we propose to undertake it in the near future upon the availability of funding, would consist of the provision of on-street parking and bulb-outs for easier pedestrian circulation. We're working now with the North Central Texas Council of Governments and Regional Transportation Council on the possible application of regional tollway revenue funds and local matching funds from the city to undertake Phase 2, both for West Rosedale and for East Rosedale.
So your proposition is to do it west of Rosedale as well as...
Both.
I mean,
Yes,
on
sir.
both sides.
Yes, sir. On both sides of Rosedale, we have extensive support from business leaders and property owners on both West Rosedale and East Rosedale, for South representing the hospitals and other businesses on the west side of the freeway has expressed strong support.
If the trolley was going to go in there, where would you put the trolley under this design?
In all likelihood, it would run along the outside lane closest to the sidewalk, not in the parking lane, but in the vehicular lane. It would run in mixed traffic with automobiles, possibly with priority treatment at intersections for the streetcar. And so the budget and schedule for the East Rosedale project, the county's participation is vitally important to this project. We've got a price tag of about $17.4 million, of which we're anticipating county funding in the amount of $3.3 million from your 2006 transportation bond program. The state is contributing $8.7 million and the city $5.4 from our own resources. We anticipate, as Ms. Lamb indicated a moment ago, TxDOT letting of this project on August 6th. I believe next week you'll be asked to authorize an agreement with TxDOT to that effect. The relocation of utilities is underway now. We anticipate that construction could begin in the early part of this fall, with completion scheduled for the early part of 2011, at which time, with available funding, we'll be able to proceed with the retrofit toward the more pedestrian-friendly design. As you can see, funding for Phase 2 would consist of approximately $2 to $4 million from regional tollway revenues. We're working with the Council of Governments and the Regional Transportation Council now to confirm that funding. Likewise, the city would provide matching funds from our own bond proceeds, again, anticipating construction to begin in 2011. Of particular interest to the court, I believe, would be the satisfaction of your own criteria for the selection of projects to be included in your bond program. We believe that this project would satisfy all 5 of your goals for the bond program. Obviously, it enjoys strong support from the city as a sponsoring entity and has secured funding from the city and from the state as well as the county. The project is listed, will continue to be listed in the city's master thoroughfare plan. It's currently classified as a 6-lane principal arterial, and we're proposing to reclassify it as a 4-lane divided major arterial, but continues to be listed in the master thoroughfare plan. We expect to initiate construction within 3 years. The local cost share is immediately available from the city. And we believe that through the reduction of vehicular trips, the promotion of mixed-use development, more pedestrian activity, greater use of public transportation, that we can mitigate congestion and improve air quality. In the long run, we believe that sustainable development is actually a more effective approach to addressing our traffic congestion problems throughout Tarrant County. And so, Your Honor, we're requesting your favorable consideration of this proposed change in the project scope with no change in the county's funding level.
Fernando, I have a couple of questions. So I
Yes,
just want to be sure I fully understand what you're doing here.
Yes, sir.
This road's going to bid in August, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Phase 1, 6 lanes.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to get built. Phase 2, you're going to take a lane away on each side. and
Convert it to
parking, which I
on-street
think looks
parking.
great. Personally, I think it's beautiful.
Yes,
but
sir.
what if we did that to begin with? That's my question.
That's our question as well. It makes no sense as a way to allocate public funds to do it in 2 phases when it could be done in 1 phase. However, Phase 1 is being funded primarily through a TxDOT program that's intended exclusively for widening projects would not accommodate, in TxDOT's opinion, the kind of project that we contemplate for East Rosedale.
Well, you're not widening it.
We're not increasing the number of travel lanes, that's correct.
I have, and I follow, TxDOT's got their rules and regulations.
Yes.
But my next problem is you got 2 lanes each way. You're going to possibly make one of those 4 lanes a trolley, and would that trolley, are you going to do a trolley on each side or just one?
It could, conceivably, and it's in an early stage, conceivably, we could have mixed traffic, both a modern streetcar and ordinary automobile traffic.
Reduce mobility again and create a suicide situation, kind of.
No, sir, no.
Okay, but you've reduced the mobility down to 1 lane each way.
No, sir, we would continue to have vehicular traffic on 2 lanes in each direction.
Yeah, but when you've got a trolley car running.
The right-of-way will be there for 6 lanes.
No, if you create parking.
Well,
you're going to.
the parking will have to go away to accommodate the.
Hollyville was going to build a 4-lane road, and some people didn't want it on the council, so they said, well, let's build it, and let's take 2 of those 4 lanes, let's cover them up with dirt, okay, and not use them, curb them. And it's kind of the same thing. In a way, we're going to build a 6-lane road, which improves mobility, reduces congestion. We're going to drop it down to 4 lanes, which your studies say that will be adequate, and I agree with that probably. But then we're going to put a trolley lane, maybe. And that's going to reduce.
No decisions have been made along those lines, but that's simply a possibility.
Right.
But I mean, there's certainly a lot of folks who want the trolley line to run down Rosedale.
Yes, sir.
On both sides.
Yes, sir.
And while I hear, I mean, what it seems to me I hear is that we're doing this more for economic development than we're doing it for traffic relief or congestion, because you're not increasing the traffic.
We're not increasing the number of traffic lanes.
And with the trolley in there, in effect, you're going to be funneling it. Well, I mean, the trolley cars are going to be running, Fernando, unless you're going to take them off there. Every once in a while, the cars are going to catch up with the trolley. And when they do, they're going to have to get out of that lane, go around the trolley before they can get back into that second lane.
If you add the trolleys, then you decrease the vehicular traffic on the roadway, and you further mitigate the negative air quality effects from having that traffic on the roadway in the first place. It's a win-win.
Well, I hope that we decrease the traffic, and certainly that's the goal of any mass transit, but I'm not sure when we're constraining the traffic now down to 1 lane, when that, well, I mean, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that one, because when the trolley is in that 1 lane, then whenever you catch up with that trolley, you've got 1 lane, and you're going to create traffic backup until all those cars can get around that trolley.
Your Honor, if you happen to be stuck behind a bus, you still have that lane of traffic. The trolley, the streetcar would be no different.
But on your streets in downtown Fort Worth, you cannot travel in a bus lane unless you're turning right.
This would not be a dedicated lane. This would be a lane of mixed traffic.
I guess I think it's gorgeous. I love what you're going to do. I think it's beautiful. The only thing I think is asinine is to build the thing 6 lanes and then come back and do all these improvements.
Well, you're not going to get the TxDOT money if you don't build it 6 lanes.
We agree that it does not make sense,
Well, then
sir.
there's a flaw in the system.
We agree, sir. We agree.
I think so.
I mean, I could be a whole lot happier about it if we were talking about 6 lanes and the trolley would run down the 2 outside lanes on a 6-lane road. But building 6, and then basically what TxDOT's requiring, the only way you're going to get TxDOT money, as I understand it, is you're going to build it at 6 while TxDOT owns it,
right.
And then you're going to go to TxDOT and say, we want to take the road over. And they're going to say, okay, we'll let you take the road over, and then you're going to come in and say, now that it's our road, we're going to take 2 of those lanes away and put parking on them.
But Judge, in effect, you're going to end up with exactly what you said you would be more comfortable with. You'll have trolleys running down the 2 outside lanes, and you'll still have 4 lanes for traffic.
No, that's not what he said. We're going to have 2
Well,
lanes.
that's what he should have said.
Well, that's
And that would work out fine if you...
that's what I meant to say.
If you didn't have those little bubbles coming out of that...
That'd be great. Those are removable. And so is the parking.
One of the options that we would have, and again, this modern streetcar study is in its formative stages, but one of the options that we would have is to retain the 6 lanes and put the streetcar in the outside lanes. And you'd have 6 lanes.
I hear you saying that this
vehicular
is in
traffic.
its formula stages, but I just know how adamant some folks are about that running down Rosedale. I could be very supportive of this with the understanding that if trolleys hit Rosedale, there'll be 6 lanes on Rosedale for them to hit, and they'll be in the 2 outside lanes, leaving 2 lanes in either direction. But I'm going to have a hard time
That's
supporting it.
exactly what he said.
No, it's not.
I said that is an option for us to consider. Yes, sir.
Do you think that's an option that the majority of your group now favors?
We haven't studied it, Your Honor, and I think it'd be presumptuous on my part to speculate.
It might be.
I would make a motion, if anybody's brave enough to second it, that we approve this, if, under the condition that the county money, if it's used, that if a trolley is put in, it would go into the parking area lanes, and that's what...
Go into the 2...
It still leave 2 lanes each way for traffic, for vehicular traffic.
Exclusively for automobile traffic. Again, I would reiterate that
I'm not sure we're saying it. I want to be sure.
If we do it, if a trolley is done, it would be in the
Parking areas.
the Phase 2 parking lanes. That would be my motion.
that's an option. That's not what we had contemplated, but that's an option that we could consider, yes, sir.
I would offer a substitute motion that we approve this with the recommendation that if a trolley is added, that it be in those 2 additional outside lanes. A recommendation rather than a requirement.
I'll offer a substitute motion that we table this for a week or 2. Let's really get an understanding of what we are talking about with Fort Worth.
Okay, I think we have.
second that.
Okay, hold on. We have a motion and a second to table. There really isn't any discussion on that unless you've got a little point of information you'd like to
Please,
add.
if I may. This project is scheduled to let August the 6th next month, and while we could table it, we can't table it for long because TxDOT needs our LaPafa, our agreement with them to move this project forward. They're asking the city to have their money in now. They're asking the county to have their money now in this project. So it makes it difficult to discuss it for very long.
Then I would suggest that we have a motion and a second, and that hopefully staff would bring this back to us next week. And Fernando, you'd have an opportunity to get the reaction of your council as to what you've heard up here this morning with regards to our recommendations.
Yes, sir.
It'll give us an opportunity to get some traffic studies, to know what kind of traffic we're talking about, when and if the streetcar situation goes in. A lot of unanswered questions.
I would plead with you, Commissioner Johnson, to withdraw your motion, because the kinds of studies that you are asking that be done cannot be done.
I'm not asking
the letting.
studies be made. I'm just asking to review what it is that they're looking at, Commissioner. I haven't seen anything on usage over there.
Okay, we've got a motion to table. Let's go ahead and vote on the motion to table.
What is the motion?
The motion right now is to table. No, it's his motion.
Okay.
His is the only motion that got a second. And his motion was to table the discussion at this point in time. So all those in favor of tabling the motion, please vote. Motion passes by a vote of 4-1. Thank y'all.
Okay, I'll see you next week.
Please. And then next week it'll be brought back to the table by one of the 4 of us. Appointments.
I have 2. Let Appointments. I would like to appoint, this is the two TIF boards. It's TIF number 2, Arlington Lakes of Bird Fort. Appoint Carolyn Sims as our representative. And the other one is TIF number 7, the North Tarrant Parkway, TIF number 7. Same thing, appoint Carolyn Sims.
Have a motion. Second. I'll second it. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one item to bring to you this morning on briefing. It's item A. This concerns a compensation system and benefit survey update. Mr. Paul Golgowski from Hay Group is here to address the Court at this time.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm not here to talk about roads.
Are you here to talk about penguins?
Yeah, penguins. That's you, Judge.
Like chicken.
The big. You're the big penguin,
Thanks.
and everybody's following you.
Yeah, no, there's only one following me, which is very appropriate.
And 3 yards. Well, I'm not going to tell you which one's following you.
And I think I'm really the little one in the back. I'm following anybody who I can get to lead.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to brief the Court on our findings this year for our compensation study that we've done for several years in a row here at Tarrant County. And additionally, this year, we did an analysis of your benefits package, and in essence have combined the analysis of the compensation study with the analysis of the benefit study to put up a fancy word there called a total remuneration study. And I'll speak to that as we present some of the information. This is, I think, our first attempt to do this on an overhead, and challenge me a little bit technically. The information that you have in front of you in terms of the hard copies is quite lengthy. I think there's 35 slides or so. I don't anticipate that we're going to touch on every one of those slides, although they are available if need be. Can't read my slide pages up there. This first intro is, simply a very high-level overview of what you asked us to do. So you asked us to look at both your pay, which is your annual paycheck, I guess, or your paycheck that you receive, and how does that compare to the market. You asked us to take, in essence, your benefit package, all of your benefits, and analyze them from what we'll call a cash equivalent basis. So what we have the opportunity to do here for you with our methodology is to take each of your benefits individually and then collectively, and in essence put a cash value equivalent to that benefit. So when we, for example, and we'll have some other charts that depict this, when you offer a health care benefit to your employee, it's one thing to say that it costs the county X amount of dollars to provide that coverage. It's another thing to say what kind of value does that create for the employee based on the kind of coverage you offer them. So we're not necessarily looking at your cost in terms of the actual dollars it takes to, in essence, fund that program. We're looking at the value that program creates for your employees on a cash value equivalent basis. And we'll have some slides that depict that. The next key slide, some of the same information. We used what we're going to call a general market to compare your pay and benefits against. So knowing that you recruit from most of your employee populations, so your exempt people, your blue-collar employees, your office and clerical employees, your information technology employees, generally you're recruiting from a broader-based population than just the public sector market. Therefore, we look at that broader-based market in terms of what they pay and the benefits they provide as a baseline for comparison. That is more difficult to do in your law enforcement employee population. So for the law enforcement population, we conducted what we just simply labeled here on this slide, a local area survey. So we contacted other counties and cities to obtain pay information from them as to how they pay their employees, and then we can overlay how your law enforcement population compares to that particular market. This slide, very high level. We, oftentimes in our work, in terms of taking all the analysis that we've done regarding pay and benefits and whittling it down into something that makes some level of sense, we kind of start big picture, and then I call it peel the onion. I used to say unpeel the onion until somebody corrected me that you don't actually unpeel an onion. So this is the high level. If you took all of your population and you looked at pay, and you took all of your population at Tarrant County employees and looked at your benefits relative to the market, and then you looked at the combined effect of total remuneration, this slide simply says that you're paying around the 25th percentile against the markets we used when it comes to pay. This is not a news flash. This is kind of the position generally that Tarrant County has been in relative to the markets we use. It's been generally an accepted place to be by the court, saying that when we compare to both public and private sector, paying at the 25th percentile is not hampering, to a great extent, our ability to attract and retain people. So it's kind of been, in essence, the targeted position the court has generally followed in terms of making decisions about what should we pay our people, what kinds of increases should we consider to maintain that level in the marketplace. This year we did our benefits study, and if you just looked at the value of the benefits package that you offer your employees here, it is at or slightly above, depending on where you're paid, at the 50th percentile of the market. So there are some things that cause you to be at that level that we'll kind of uncover a little bit. Again, somewhat high level, that speaks to what has caused the benefits to be at that level. We can combine those and make it something we call total remuneration. And generally, when you look at that, and we'll show you some slides here shortly, you're between the 25th percentile and the 50th percentile. So, kind of layman's story, pay is at the 25th percentile. Benefits are very competitive in the marketplace, but when you combine them both, you're kind of between the 25th and the 50th percentile. These next three charts, the audience may have a little bit harder time reading them than you up there. It's simply charting pay on the left-hand side of the chart and what we have referenced as Hay points down at the bottom. The Hay system is a system that you use across the organization to align the internal value system of jobs in the county. It gives you a way to say job A is bigger than job C against some set of criteria. There's a point system that you follow. All of our clients follow that point system. It allows us to say that if you have a 200-point job in the county, it's paid X, and the market pays that same 200-point job Y. And this depicts, if you lumped all your employees together, your pay a little bit more competitive at the lower levels of the organization relative to the market. The higher you go in the organization, i.e. as you take on larger jobs, your relative position to the marketplace falls slightly below the 25th percentile. Again, that picture in terms of where you pay relative to market is generally been unchanged over the past several years. This chart looks at the value of the benefits that you offer people at those same Hay levels. So now we can look at a 200 Hay point job and say the value of your benefits package. That's everything you do. That's your vacations, your health care, your retirement plan, your disability plans, your insurance, your life insurance plans. We can convert that into a value. So as an example, if you just looked at the chart and said, okay, a job at about 200 Hay points, which generally for discussion purposes is jobs in the non-exempt category, grade 15, in the craft category, grade 28, in the law enforcement category, grade 51, just as some reference points for you and maybe people in the audience. Your benefit value, cash value equivalent, is somewhere around $25,000. The market value for that is somewhere around $22,000. So it depicts...
Back up one, if you wouldn't
Okay.
mind, please, back up one slide.
One slide, if I can do that. Yes, sir.
So what this is saying is if you take the base salary, again at that lower level, which is where a large majority of our folks are, it's the lower compensated folks. From a compensation standpoint, they're right between the 50 and the 25.
Yes, sir.
As you move higher on the scale, the folks who are at the higher levels or have been here
Typically, that's evident of people who've been here longer.
Are below the 25.
Yes, sir.
And then the same thing as you move to the next slide, the benefits. Again, the folks at the lower levels are above 50, whereas, and they stay above 50. Our benefits are good, is what
Yes, they
I'm
are.
saying.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about some of those key drivers to why those benefits are above that line as we go through the presentation. You can combine that information together and, in essence, add the value of cash to the cash value equivalent of benefits, and it simply says the same kind of story in terms of the lower end employees are a little bit more competitive than the higher end employees relative to the markets. Okay? This grade chart is just your conversion chart. We tried putting it on the charts themselves, and it became pretty cumbersome. So this is just a reference chart for hay points relative to grades of the different structures that you and maybe members of the audience are a little bit more familiar with. It just is a way for people who look at this presentation or get a copy of this presentation can make a kind of simple conversion on where they are, because points aren't the ones that are communicated. Usually it's grades. This is a summary slide. Again, this is the peel of the onion. This has to speak to cash here and kind of where you stand. We have some other slides that take each employee group, because remember, we do an exempt analysis, we do a law enforcement analysis, we do an analysis on the IT jobs and segregate those out into separate analysis. This summarizes everything. I guess the key findings on this slide are the last three slides on the page. You'll see our recommendations in more detail, but to know in advance, we are going to be recommending, depending on the group that you're in, anywhere between a 2.5% increase to your salary ranges for most of your population to some grades being recommended with an 8% increase. And we'll talk about where those reside. In general, for your merit increased employee population, which is everybody at law enforcement, we're generally recommending a 3% structure, a 3% merit increase. Based on the information that we have, there are a couple other groups that the court may want to consider some market adjustments based on the analysis that we have and some charts to follow. Wow, this is a very tough slide to read. It says basically what I captured high level. It says that in the far right-hand column, all the groups, the exempt, non-exempt, and craft, we're recommending a 2.5% structure increase and a 3% merit increase. For your IT professional structure, we're asking that on the high end of that structure, you consider a 5% structure increase. At the low end of that, you consider a 2.5% structure increase. It has to do with the findings on some of the charts we'll show you. And for the law enforcement, we are asking we are recommending the court consider at the upper ends of law enforcement an 8% structure increase and hold the bottom of that structure to a 0 increase with incremental increases along the grades, basically about 0.5% as you go up the law enforcement structure. The net effect of those recommendations from a cost perspective are shown on this slide. We've monkeyed with this slide this year a little bit. My my people at the back office and maybe or Robin has looked at me and go, why did you do this? You made it more difficult. But if we could just step through this a little bit. On the upper 2/3 of this, we've taken all your, what I call PFP type employee groups and put them together. At the bottom third, we've in essence taken your step plan employees, i.e. the law enforcement group, and we've looked at for your PFP employees, if you take the structure increases that we are recommending, how many employees would fall below your guideline of holding people to the 90% comp ratio. So it's a head count total, and then it's a potential cost total, if you agree with the recommendations, to bring those employees that fall below that 90% comp ratio to that level. So about $429,000. The merit increase cost column is separated into two different pieces. One that says kind of a hypothetical. If we gave everybody an increase on October 1 that was due if we gave everybody a PFP on October 1, what would that annualized cost be? 3.5 plus million. If we looked at that and understood that those PFPs are not going to happen in October because they traditionally have happened in January, the cost in the budget cycle for those employees would be about $2.7 million. If you took both of those calculations and added that to your below 90th percentile increases, you then get the total cost column, and then you get the total cost column represented as a percent of the payroll within that group or group's subtotal. Then we look at law enforcement. You don't really have, by official title, I guess, below 90th percentile increases. You do have a straight cost associated with a structure increase. Typically, you offer that increase to employee, or you allow that increase to those law enforcement people on the day the structure moves, which for you traditionally has been October. The cost to do that for law enforcement, based on the recommendations we have forward for the law enforcement group, is about $1.5 million. That is to say, I'm in step E today. The value of step E on October 1 changes. I get that increase. To do that increase is about $1.5 million. If you gave everybody who was due a step increased, so from E to F, and you did that in October for everybody, the cost would be about $1.5 million based on our recommendations. Knowing that that doesn't occur, we try to make an attempt this year to say on a cash flow basis, knowing that it happens periodically throughout the year, that would be about an $815,000 cost to do those increases. So for law enforcement, a total cost of about $3 million if you look at it on an annualized basis. If you look at it on a cash flow basis, about $2.3 million. And then we summarize in a total cost perspective.
So we typically do cash flow, correct? Robin shook her head, yes, that's what I needed to see. Stay with me on this, Robin. So under the cash flow basis, everybody, excluding law enforcement, under a cash flow basis, that's going to be about a 2.6% increase. Now, again, on a full year basis, they're going to be looking at 3.4.
That is correct.
But because on the cash flow basis, I don't think it takes effect till January the 1st for many.
The merit is on January 1st.
Okay. Then down for the law enforcement, where the merit is not there, I mean, basically it's just a matter of the step. Under the same basis that we've always worked under, everybody besides law enforcement is going to be looking at about a 2.6. Law enforcement is going to be looking at about a 3.8% increase. Again, under a full year method, it's about 4.9 versus 3.4. And then you've got the average.
Right.
But this takes everybody that's in the system right now, takes into account the increase that they'll get as a result of their step, if they're eligible for it, if they were to make the next step, and if they're not at the very top. And it simply says that under a full year basis, law enforcement would be looking at about a 4.9%, everybody else in the county about a 3.4%. Under a cash flow for just the current year budget that we're fixing to get into, it would be a 2.6 versus a 3.8.
Yes.
And do remember that these numbers include the grant-funded employees, and so we'll give you some clean numbers in the upcoming weeks that will exclude those grant-funded numbers. And also on the cash flow basis, they made the assumption that the step increases are evenly divided throughout the year, that, you know, they divided the number of employees by the 12 months. And truly, most of them typically hit in October and January, most of the step increases. We kind of have the bulk of them there.
This recommendation for law enforcement, I understand there, and I think was submitted for consideration. The Law Enforcement Association had come up with some alternatives for consideration. This is close to, I can't remember exactly, they had an A, a B, and a C kind of consideration. I think this is really close in terms of what we recommend to, I think, their B-level consideration in terms of what they looked at. In terms of their market data and their kind of thoughts about what the court should consider. So we are somewhat in alignment with one of their recommendations. This next series of charts simply are, you know, the backdrop of why we recommended what we recommended for each of those different groups. Again, here's exempt tracking the 25th percentile. 8-9 years ago, it was down at the 10th percentile. The non-exempts have been looking like this over time, tracking slightly below the 25th percentile. The higher up you go in the non-exempt categories, the lower end tracking closer to the 50th percentile. Here's your IT exempt position that at one time, probably pre Paul Glogowski, the court had kind of felt that paying closer to the 50th percentile was a better place to be for the IT population. So if you think back around 1998 or so, with the talks of Y2K, the court at one time said we need to keep these people closer to the 50th percentile, pretty much because of the market demands for IT people. Our indications in the market today is, well, it's a okay market for the IT folks. It's certainly not, from our perspective, anything near what it was in Y2K. Here's your non-exempt IT population. Kind of probably from my perspective, one of the weirdest looking charts, probably because it's got the smallest population in terms of numbers of people. And doing this kind of regression analysis on a small population can be challenging to get good, kind of accurate depiction. Here's your craft employee population. Again, it's a pretty small population, tracking the 25th percentile, which is about where it's been over the past several years. And here is the law enforcement population, again, tracking well below the 25th percentile as you increase your, I guess, rank, if you will, in that group relative to other law enforcement jobs. Thus, the bigger structure increase recommendation at the higher ends.
So this is where you were representing, or you were recommending an 8% at the top.
Yes.
With graduating down from there.
Yes. It's about 0.5% a grade, roughly. It's just a ballpark calculation. Benefits. Just some information about benefits. One, we're going to present here in the court just some high-level findings. We certainly have done quite a bit of detail analysis behind the scenes that led us to this, what's the big picture look. We said it earlier, you're at or exceeds the 50th percentile. There's really two things that are driving that. It is your health care plan and it is your retirement plan. While you may be less competitive on a benefit-by-benefit comparison, for example, like for life insurance, your life insurance offering to your employees is below market. However, the value of that life insurance plan on a cash equivalent basis is nowhere near the value of the retirement plan on a cash equivalent basis. So, in your typically more important benefits in the eyes of the employee, you are well positioned in your retirement plan and your health care plan. You don't have much in the way of executive perks, particularly in the private sector, as you know. begin to take place once you enter into the management kinds of jobs. You don't have them here. It's not a significant portion of the analysis. We just wanted to make note of that. Your health care plans. The actual designs of the plans themselves, so what do we cover? What do we cover when someone is in network, out of network? What do we cover, for different types of illnesses, different types of co-pays? Those are very much in line with the market. So the design of your benefit programs are very much in line with market. What makes your benefit program have a higher than market cash value equivalent is the employee portion of pay. It's the employee portion of the coverage you ask them to pay. So, for example, in general, you're asking your employees to pay about 12% of the cost for employee coverage. The market typically asks employees to cover about 20%, typically to cover 20% of that cost. So that's a reason why your benefit program, when you convert it to a cash equivalent, has a little bit higher values than the market. It's not the plan design. It doesn't say go out and change the way your plan is designed. It says the way you are asking employees to help fund that is not as rich in terms of the employee coverage, what the employees asked to put in, as what the market asks the employees to put in. And for family coverage, you're asking the employee to pick up approximately 20% of the cost, and in the market, most employers are asking employees for family coverage to pick up about 30% of the cost. And as we all know, that's, we just looked at averages there. There are still good percents of population that are asking their employees to pay more than that. Okay? Your retirement benefit has a little bit higher than market value. You have kind of a different kind of plan. We call it a hybrid plan somewhere in here. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just not necessarily the typical plan design we see. But the way it is designed, particularly with the 2-to-1 ratio upon retirement payout, it creates a value of a retirement benefit that's slightly above market. Okay? And overall, your total benefit values are about 106% of the 50th percentile market. So you have a very nice benefit package, and certainly nothing to be ashamed of at all. We can chart that out over each employee group. The value of benefits in the exempt population, the value of benefits in the non-exempt population. The story doesn't change much when you go from group to group to group. What you pay people has an influence on the value of that benefit. So the fact that you have a nice match on your retirement plan, it's a nice match maybe against a pay level that might be below market. So the designs of your retirement benefit plan, as an example, could be the value of your benefit plan in this basis could be much higher if you were paying at the 50th percentile, because now your match would be against a higher dollar value. But so in here, just a series of charts on where people's benefits values come up relative to each of the employee breakout groups. I think not as significant as looking at the whole population at whole. Because I doubt you'd make a change to benefits for the non-exempt population. Or you'd make a change for a non-exempt population in benefits, but not make it for exempt. So that's why I like kind of the big picture. If you don't like where the values fall for total remuneration, then I think you'd want to look at the cash side of the equation if it becomes a concern. So in our recommendations, by the way, you'll notice we make no recommendations on changing your benefits. We say they're good benefits, they have nice values. They don't totally make up for any perceived lack of where you pay people to get people to the total remuneration level of the 50th percentile. I wouldn't change them. We're going to show you charts again. Now this is value of cash, value of your benefits, total, no, this is for exempt only. This shows you the same kind of basic pictures that we've been showing you throughout the presentation. Exempt population, the higher you go, your total remuneration slips slightly versus the market. Same with your non-exempts. Same with your IT jobs. Same with your craft. Generally not as much. Same with your law enforcement. Most of that I fall off in total remuneration. The higher I go is driven by the fact that I fall off on my cash the higher I go. That is my somewhat quick and brief presentation.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
Okay, before we head out, Suzanne, would you, I believe you have somebody new that the court you might want to introduce. And
We have a new clerk with us today, Nancy Thompson. Would you like to stand? Yes. I'd like to welcome her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome aboard, Nancy. We will close, as we're going to adjourn to closed session right now, but we will close today's session in honor or in memory of Dr. Wayne Williams. The Commissioners Court will now recess to open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. We will now address the hall.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item E2, under the District Attorney's Office, we're requesting authorization to have the judge sign the release of claims settlement agreement and the auditor to forthwith cash the check in the amount of $10,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. With regard to item number 5, requesting authorization to intervene in the lawsuit that's described in item number 5.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And with regard to item number 6, we're requesting authorization to intervene in that lawsuit as described in the item.
Move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we talked a little bit earlier today about setting our budget hearing date. I have some blank calendars on August. As we talked, we would like to try to set this either the week of the 11th or the week of the 18th. At first, we thought that the 11th would be a good date, but there may be a conflict with at least one member of court. You might recall last year we did we basically covered it in about a day to a day and a half. We tried to get the bulk of it in one day, and then if we have to use the afternoon of court session to finish it up, that's what we try to do.
Week of the 11th looked great to me.
Does somebody have a problem with
I
the
have a
11th?
problem with Monday.
I do too.
Well, how about 13th, 14th, 15th?
I'm still trying to get my calendar to come
The
up.
13th.
That transportation.
That's the transportation summit that's in Irving.
I've got no problem with the 13th, 14th, or the 14th and 15th.
What about if we move to the next weekend, we made it the 18th and the 19th?
Oh, wait a minute, okay? I think I'm good then.
Well,
Well,
19th
it's not
court
up yet.
day.
Well, I mean, but
That's
it would
when
be
we
after
would've
the
been
court.
before.
I'm the 18th fine with me, but
Either or.
How does Monday the 18th look?
Sounds 1 week later than the other one.
It's fine.
Does everybody have their calendar up?
Not yet.
Oh, yeah, I've had mine out.
See, I made a mistake of turning it off. I'm sorry.
And now she needs an ITT expert
Nope,
to come
it's
in
a-
there and turn it on for her.
Okay, I'm good for the 19th,
About the 18th.
18th.
Monday.
I'm good.
18th?
Your Honor, are you good on it? Okay, very good. So our,
Budget,
excuse me,
the 18th and 19th.
What time?
18th and 19th, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 a.m.
9 a.m., all right.
Very good.
So we're going to start court at 9?
No,
on
budget
the-
budget hearings on Monday are at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Now, we have a purchasing board meeting Tuesday, the 19th at 8:30.
Right, and then on the budget, let's, just so that the happenstance that we might be able to get through, let's kind of plan on all the way till 5 o'clock on the 18th?
So
Yes.
from after court till,
No, I'm talking about, that was on the Monday.
oh, on
Monday.
Monday, yeah. I got
The whole-
it.
19th,
Whatever we don't finish on the 18th, we'll take up as soon as court. We'll make that a light court, and then we'll come and finish it up that afternoon.
but you're saying we got a purchasing meeting that morning?
8:30.
Are y'all got a purchasing meeting that morning?
We may be there all day Monday. Yes, we do.
We're going to be here all day Monday
Okay.
and maybe all day Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay. That's good.
Now, what exactly am I supposed to do with this?
Throw it away.
Actually, it's in the recycle bin, or I'll take it. I can use it. That was just for those who might need a visual. We'll give it to the clerk.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor, that's all we have
We're going
today.
to close in memory of Dr.
Dr.
Wayne Williams.
Wayne Williams.
Thank you. Just looking at his.
Okay. I have GCAP.